The ADP report came out a bit lower than expected, and what impact could that possibly have on the Fed thinking?
Well, it's not going to have a huge amount of impact because they're already seeing this sort of thing. I mean, they're seeing the economy weaken. GDP came in weaker than expected. And so they already have it in mind that the economy is going to be a problem for a while, and they need to keep the numbers where they are. Now, it'd be interesting to see what happens with the ISM report at 10. If that comes in significantly weaker, that could change the tenor of the statement. But the way the Fed works, the statement has pretty much been drafted. They all say their piece at a meeting like this, and then they circulate it around, and they can all decide whether they want to make changes or not. But it's pretty much wrapped up by noon. So don't expect a whole lot different out of today's meeting.
Right, a big turnaround at all, not in the cards. But Peter, I know you've been talking to a lot of Washington insiders, lawmakers, and what they think of the Fed, as well as economists. What is their feeling about Ben Bernanke staying on and who his successor might be?
Well, there's already been a lot of attention devoted to who might replace Ben Bernanke, particularly with his decision not to attend the Jackson Hole conference in August. That's raised a lot of eyebrows at the Bloomberg Washington Summit yesterday. That got a lot of attention. We heard from a number of folks, former Fed Governor Larry Meyer, for example, who said he still believes that Janet Yellen has the right of first refusal for Ben Bernanke's job, that she's the odds-on favorite to get it. But Adam Posen says not so fast, of course. He runs the Peterson Institute for International Economics, well-known economist, advisor to the Bank of England, of course. He thinks still that Tim Geithner could be in the mix, not because Janet Yellen isn't qualified, but simply that she doesn't have the relationship with President Obama that perhaps Tim Geithner has. Of course, Geithner said this isn't a job he wants, but the speculation has already started, Betty, and that probably makes life a little bit harder on Ben Bernanke as well. Maybe easier on Ben Bernanke, but again, we're already shifting the attention off of Fed policy to who runs the Fed in the future, and that tells you something.
It certainly is a stir and unusual that he wouldn't be going to Jackson Hole this summer.
It's very unusual. In 2005, when Alan Greenspan left, it turned into hagiography of him. Everybody spent the whole meeting talking about how great Alan Greenspan was, and then we saw what happened to his reputation after that. So Ben Bernanke probably wants to avoid that. But it is an interesting dynamic because as the year goes on, you'll start thinking in terms of not as how Ben Bernanke is going to set up the future's policy, but how his successor might change it, and that will have an influence on Fed thinking as well.